What happens when a woman betrays a loyal man? He doesn't scream, he doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he vanishes. A woman thinks she's hurting a man by breaking his heart, but she has no idea what she has just created. She has unknowingly built a man so powerful, so untouchable, that he will never be the same again. She has set fire to a man who will now rise from the ashes with wisdom, control, and a mindset so lethal that nothing will ever break him again. If you're a man who has ever been used, lied to, or betrayed, this message is for you. This is the last time you will feel powerless. This is the last time a woman's actions will dictate your emotions. Drop a never again in the comments right now if you're ready to evolve. There is no pain like betrayal. A woman who once swore she'd never leave, who once looked into your eyes and promised loyalty, who said you were different, she lied. And now you have a choice. You can let this break you. You can let it weaken you, or you can become unbreakable. Most men stay stuck in the pain. They obsess over what they did wrong. They replay every moment, searching for a reason, a sign they ignored. But the smart men, they wake up. They see the truth. They realize that pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning. This is where you change everything. This is where you reclaim your power, your mind, your life. She has done you the biggest favor of your life, because now you are about to become something she will never have access to again. Number 1, he will vanish without a word. While she expects drama, arguments, long texts filled with emotions, and endless attempts to understand what went wrong, a man who has awakened to the truth gives her none of that. He doesn't waste words on someone who has already discarded him. He doesn't explain himself, doesn't try to convince her of his worth, and most importantly, he doesn't seek closure. Because closure is a myth, a lie that weak men believe will give them peace, when in reality, the only thing that brings true peace is moving forward and building a life so powerful that she becomes nothing but a distant memory. The moment she realizes he has disappeared without a word, it shakes her to her core. Because silence is the loudest response. A woman expects to see a man broken, begging, crawling back for one more chance. That is what she is used to. She thrives on emotional control. But when she meets a man who simply walks away without looking back, who removes himself from her world so completely that she begins to wonder if she ever mattered at all, that's when she starts to feel the weight of her own actions. Not because she regrets them, but because she no longer has the power to manipulate his emotions. And that loss of control terrifies her. The weak man texts. He waits for the moment she will realize what she lost. He stalks her social media, hoping for a sign that she's hurting. He creates scenarios in his mind where she comes back, apologizing, begging to fix things. But the strong man, he understands reality. He knows that by the time she walked away, she had already emotionally detached. She had already moved on long before she physically left. A woman does not leave unless she has another option lined up. She doesn't suddenly lose feelings. She has been planning her exit, testing the waters, keeping you around until she felt safe enough to move on. And when she does so without looking back. That is why a man who understands this truth wastes no time mourning the loss of someone who was never fully there to begin with. He doesn't chase ghosts. He doesn't seek validation from a woman who has proven unworthy of his loyalty. He sees her exit not as a loss, but as a revelation. She didn't leave him. She exposed herself. And instead of fighting to keep her, he thanks life for removing her from his path. He doesn't drown in emotions. He drowns himself in progress. The moment she betrays or abandons him, his energy shifts. He doesn't argue. He doesn't explain. He disappears. He stops checking up on her, stops reacting to her attempts to see if he still cares, stops giving her any emotional access, and that is what truly breaks her. Because nothing terrifies a woman more than a man who no longer cares. She doesn't miss the man, she misses the attention, the security, the validation he gave her. And when that is gone, when she realizes he has elevated himself to a level where she no longer exists in his reality, that is when she regrets everything. Not because she loved him, but because she lost control. And this is exactly why the man who walks away in silence wins. He wins because he is now free. Free from the emotional manipulation, the endless cycles of being used and discarded, the false hope that she will change. He stops trying to fix someone who was never broken. She was exactly who she was always meant to be. It was him who needed to wake up. And once he does, once he sees the truth of how modern relationships operate, he shifts his focus entirely. He starts investing in himself like never before. He goes to the gym, not for revenge, not to show her what she lost, but because he refuses to be weak ever again. He builds his wealth, not to prove anything to her, but because financial independence means never relying on anyone for validation or survival. He works on his mind, reads books on business, philosophy and self-improvement, understanding the deeper layers of human nature and life in general, so that no one can ever manipulate him again. He cuts off every distraction, every toxic influence, every habit that kept him stuck in the past. He becomes obsessed with one thing, his evolution. And while he is building, something strange happens. She starts to reach out. Maybe it's a random, "Hey, how have you been?" Maybe it's a thinking about you text at 2 a.m. Maybe it's a comment on his social media, a desperate attempt to remind him that she still exists. And in that moment, the old version of him might have felt a rush of emotions, a sense of validation. But the new him, he feels nothing, because he is no longer the man she once knew. He has become something else entirely, something untouchable, something unshakable. He doesn't respond. He doesn't fall into the trap of nostalgia, because he knows that a woman who truly cared would have never put him in a position to heal from her in the first place. So he moves forward, with no anger, no resentment, no desire to prove anything. He doesn't block her out of hatred. He doesn't ignore her out of spite. He simply outgrows her, and that is the final blow. Because while she is stuck trying to relive the past, trying to test the waters to see if she still has an effect on him, he is already miles ahead. He has become the man she once fantasized about, but now he is beyond her reach. She watches as he flourishes, as he attracts better, as he moves with purpose and confidence. And by the time she truly realizes what she lost, he is long gone. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He has vanished in a way that she can never undo, and that is the power of a man who chooses himself. He does not beg, he does not plead, he does not seek revenge. He simply disappears. And in doing so, he wins a game he was never even playing. But what about the man who is still stuck, still waiting, still hoping she comes back? He needs to understand this. She does not regret losing you. She regrets losing control over you. She does not miss you. She misses the security, the attention, the validation. And if you ever go back, if you ever entertain her games again, you are showing her that she still owns you, that she still holds power over your emotions. And the moment she senses that, she will lose respect for you forever. So walk away, without words, without hesitation, without looking back. Let her feel your absence. Let her wonder what happened to the man who used to crave her attention. Let her experience a reality where she no longer has the power to affect you. Because once you reach that level, once you master the art of emotional detachment, once you realize that your value was never dependent on her recognition of it, you become unstoppable. This is the transformation every man must go through. This is the awakening that separates the weak from the powerful. The moment you vanish without a word, the moment you reclaim your energy and invest it into building yourself, instead of fixing what was never meant to last, you become the man she will regret losing for the rest of her life. Number 2. He will question everything. When she betrays a man, it's not just the relationship that breaks, it's his entire perception of reality. He thought he knew her. He thought he could trust her. He believed in the words she spoke, the promises she made, the love she claimed to have for him. But now he questions everything. Was it all a lie? Did she ever truly care? Was she already planning her exit while she was still telling him that he was the only man she wanted? The betrayal isn't just painful, it's revealing. Because now he sees things he never saw before. He sees the red flags he ignored. He sees how she slowly pulled away, how her attention shifted, how she became emotionally unavailable while keeping him around as a safety net. He realizes that she never actually left out of nowhere. She had been emotionally gone for a long time. But he was too blind, too trusting, too loyal to notice. And that is the moment the real transformation begins. A man who has been betrayed doesn't just lose a woman, he loses the illusion he was living in. He wakes up. And once he does, he can never see the world the same way again. This is where the old version of him dies. The version that believed in unconditional love. The version that thought his loyalty alone would be enough to keep a woman. The version that assumed good intentions just because he had them himself. That version of him is gone forever. And now, standing in his place, is a man who sees things exactly as they are. He sees that a woman's words mean nothing if her actions don't align. He sees that love is conditional, that loyalty is not always reciprocated, that being a good man does not guarantee respect. He sees that in modern relationships, comfort breeds complacency, and the moment a woman feels like she has full control, she starts looking for her next option. This is a hard pill to swallow, but it is the truth. And now, he has to make a choice. Will he allow this realization to destroy him, or will he use it to build a stronger, smarter, unshakable version of himself? This is where most men fail. They let the betrayal turn them bitter instead of better. They spiral into depression, drinking, isolating themselves, falling into a dark pit of self-doubt and regret. They replay every conversation, every memory, obsessing over where it all went wrong. They either blame her entirely or they blame themselves completely, never realizing that the truth is somewhere in between. Because the truth is, she was never truly his to begin with. He just believed she was. And once he understands this, he can finally begin to take control of his life again. This is where his focus shifts. Instead of wasting energy trying to figure her out, he starts figuring himself out. Instead of asking, "Why did she do this to me?" he asks, "Why did I allow myself to ignore the signs?" Instead of obsessing over the past, he starts rebuilding his future. He studies psychology to understand human nature. He educates himself on female hypergamy, on social dynamics, on power and influence. He starts seeing the patterns in relationships, understanding that attraction is not about love. It's about respect. And respect is not given, it is earned. A man who has gone through betrayal and learned from it will never be the same again. He will never again put a woman on a pedestal. He will never again believe in fairy tales. He will never again assume that love alone is enough to keep someone loyal. And because of that, he will never be manipulated again. When he meets a woman in the future, he won't fall for her words. He will watch her actions. He won't assume she is different just because she says she is. He will let time reveal her true nature. He won't give his loyalty freely. He will make her earn it. And if at any point she starts pulling away, showing signs of disinterest, he won't beg for her attention. He will walk away without hesitation. Because a man who has truly awakened to the reality of modern relationships does not fear losing a woman. He fears losing himself. And that is the true power that comes from betrayal. It forces him to evolve. It forces him to stop living in delusion. It forces him to stop thinking like a boy and start operating like a man. He no longer moves based on emotions. He moves based on principles. He no longer attaches his worth to a woman's validation. He builds his value independently. He no longer chases love. He attracts it through his own strength and ambition. And the moment he becomes this version of himself, everything changes. Women start treating him differently. They sense his confidence, his control, his indifference to their games. They are drawn to him not because he chases, but because he doesn't. Not because he worships them, but because he respects himself too much to ever tolerate disrespect again. But what about her? What happens to the woman who betrayed him? At first, she feels nothing. She moves on easily because she already detached emotionally long before she left. She enjoys the thrill of her new relationship, the excitement of something fresh. She convinces herself that she made the right decision. Then time passes, and something unexpected happens. She starts noticing that the new guy doesn't treat her the way the old one did. He doesn't care as much. He doesn't tolerate as much. He doesn't value her the way she was once valued. She starts to realize that what she thought was boring was actually stability, that what she thought was too nice was actually love, that what she thought was predictable was actually commitment. And then it hits her. She made a mistake. She starts looking back. She starts reminiscing. She starts wondering if she should reach out. Maybe just to check in. Maybe just to see how he's doing. But when she does, she is met with silence. The man she once knew is gone. Not bitter, not angry, just completely indifferent. And that is when she truly feels the weight of her choices. Because a woman only regrets losing a man when he no longer cares. And by the time she realizes this, it is too late. And the man? He doesn't care about her regret. He doesn't look back. He is too busy winning, too busy building, too busy living a life so fulfilling, so focused, so successful, that she becomes nothing but a distant memory. And that is the ultimate victory, not proving her wrong, not taking her back just to hurt her, but moving on so completely that she no longer exists in his reality. Number 3, he will rebuild himself. When a man is betrayed, he has two choices: stay broken or become unstoppable. Most men let the pain consume them, drowning in regret, self-pity and resentment. They spend months, even years, stuck in the past, replaying every moment, every conversation, trying to make sense of what happened. But a man who understands his worth does not stay down. He does not waste time trying to understand why she did what she did, because he knows that betrayal is not about him. It's about her. She made her choice, and now he makes his. Instead of asking why, he asks what's next. And that is when everything changes. He stops looking at the past as something that was taken from him, and he starts seeing it as the greatest gift he was ever given, because now he has the opportunity to rebuild himself from the ground up, stronger, smarter, more disciplined, more ruthless. A man who has been broken and has rebuilt himself is a man who is dangerous, not because he seeks revenge, but because he no longer seeks validation. He doesn't care about proving his worth to anyone, especially not to a woman who never valued him in the first place. He is no longer playing the game. He is building his own empire. And the first step to rebuilding himself is destroying the version of him that allowed himself to be weak. He looks in the mirror and acknowledges the hard truth. He let this happen. He ignored the signs. He tolerated disrespect. He gave his loyalty freely without requiring anything in return, and that is a mistake he will never make again. So he starts with the mind. He cuts off every distraction, every toxic habit, every useless indulgence that kept him blind. He stops wasting time on meaningless entertainment, stops scrolling endlessly on social media, stops chasing instant gratification. He reads, he studies, he learns about power, influence, psychology, business. He starts to understand human nature at a level most men never will, because most men are too distracted, too emotionally weak to look at reality for what it is. But not him. He is now operating on a different level. While other men cry over lost love, he is becoming so sharp, so mentally strong, that he will never be manipulated again. He is learning how the world really works. And with that knowledge, he becomes unstoppable. Then he moves to the body. A strong mind in a weak body is a contradiction. He doesn't just hit the gym, he transforms his body into a machine. Every drop of pain, every ounce of heartbreak fuels his workouts. He trains like his life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Weakness invites disrespect. Weakness makes a man vulnerable to manipulation. Weakness is what led him to be betrayed in the first place. And now, weakness is dead. He wakes up before the sun. He lifts heavier than ever before. He disciplines his body to endure pain, because he knows that a man who can control his body can control his mind, and a man who can control his mind can control his life. And as his body transforms, so does his energy. Women start noticing. Men start respecting him, not because he seeks attention, but because power cannot be ignored. He walks differently, speaks differently, moves differently. He has become a force. And then comes the mission. A man without a purpose is a man who is lost, and lost men are easy to control. But a man who has found his purpose, he becomes untouchable. He stops chasing love, stops chasing women, stops chasing approval. He starts building a business, a career, a legacy, something that no one can take away from him. While she is out seeking validation from men who will never respect her, he is creating a life so valuable that one day she will see him and realize that she let go of something priceless. But by then, he will be so far ahead that she will no longer matter. He works harder than he ever has, not because he is trying to prove anything, but because he refuses to be average. Average men get used. Average men get cheated on. Average men get forgotten. And he is no longer an average man. He is ascending. And then something strange happens. As he rebuilds himself, as he becomes more powerful, more disciplined, more respected, she comes back. It might take months, maybe years, but it always happens. She reaches out. Maybe a, "Hey, I hope you're doing well." Maybe a, "Thinking about you." Maybe she watches his stories, likes his posts, just to see if she still exists in his world. But she doesn't, because he has outgrown her in every possible way. And that is when she feels the regret. Not because she loves him, but because she sees that he is now the man she always wanted. But she can no longer have him. She thought she could do better. She thought she could replace him. But all she found were men who could never measure up. And now, she is the one who lost. But by then, he doesn't care. He doesn't block her out of anger. He doesn't reply out of bitterness. He simply does not acknowledge her existence, because he has evolved beyond her. This is the final stage of rebuilding, detachment. The moment he realizes that he no longer needs closure, no longer needs revenge, no longer needs her in any capacity. Because the true measure of success is not proving her wrong, it's proving himself right. And the man he has become is a man that would never tolerate the woman she is. And that is the final victory. While she is still chasing a dream that will never come true, While she is still looking for a man that doesn't exist, he is already miles ahead, building, winning, thriving. And the best part? He didn't change for her. He didn't level up just to get revenge. He did it because he refused to stay the same. Number 4, he will master his emotions. When a woman betrays a man, she expects him to break. She expects him to drown in anger, pain, and regret. She expects him to lash out, to lose control, to spiral into self-destruction, because she knows one thing: most men cannot handle their emotions. A weak man allows his emotions to control him. He lets the betrayal consume him, turning him into a bitter, vengeful, emotionally unstable version of himself. He wastes his energy trying to hurt her back, exposing his pain in a way that only makes him look weaker. And the worst part, she enjoys it. She enjoys knowing that she still has power over him, that even in her absence she can control his thoughts, his feelings, his behavior. And this is why the man who masters his emotions is the man who wins. Because the moment she realizes that he no longer reacts, that he no longer cares, that she no longer has the ability to manipulate his mind, that is when she feels the loss. Emotional control is what separates a boy from a man. A boy reacts, a man calculates. A boy lets his emotions drive his decisions. A man uses logic. A boy begs for an explanation. A man walks away in silence. A boy wants closure. A man creates his own peace. The difference is everything. A man who has been betrayed and has learned the lesson will never allow himself to be emotionally controlled by a woman again. He will never again give a woman the power to disrupt his focus, his ambition, his self-worth. And once he understands this, his entire life changes. Because now, instead of wasting his energy on emotions that do not serve him, he channels that energy into something greater, building himself into an unstoppable force. The first step to mastering emotions is understanding them. Betrayal triggers a reaction. It makes a man feel rejected, humiliated, unworthy. But these feelings are not facts. They are the result of misplaced attachment. He feels pain because he invested in the wrong person. He feels anger because he expected loyalty from someone incapable of giving it. He feels regret because he ignored the warning signs. And once he understands this, he stops being a victim. He stops blaming her and starts learning from the experience. He recognizes that emotions are temporary, but the way he responds to them determines his future. A man who has mastered his emotions does not chase revenge. He does not waste time proving himself. He does not give her the satisfaction of knowing she still affects him. Instead, he elevates. He channels his pain into self-improvement. He builds his body into a machine, not out of anger, but out of discipline. He strengthens his mind, training himself to remain calm under any circumstance. He focuses on his goals, his vision, his mission, because he knows that success is the best response to betrayal. He becomes so emotionally untouchable that nothing, not rejection, not heartbreak, not disappointment, can break his focus. And this is when he truly becomes dangerous. Because when a man no longer needs emotional validation from a woman, he becomes the kind of man that every woman desires, but can no longer control. And what happens when she realizes this? She tries to test him. She tries to get a reaction. She sends messages, hoping he will reply. She watches his stories, hoping he will notice. She talks about him to others, hoping he will hear. But he does nothing, because his emotions are no longer tied to her. He has outgrown her, evolved beyond her, moved into a reality where she no longer exists. And that is what truly destroys her. Not his anger, not his silence, his complete indifference. Because when a man masters his emotions, he becomes untouchable, and that is when he wins. Number 5, he will become unreachable. A man who has been betrayed and has learned from it is a man who no longer exists in the same reality as the woman who hurt him. He does not just move on, he moves up. He does not just let go, he elevates. And once he reaches this level, he becomes unreachable. This means more than just ignoring texts or cutting contact. It means he has stepped into a version of himself that she will never again have access to. He has become so focused on his own evolution that even if she were to beg for another chance, he wouldn't even consider it, because he now understands the cost of allowing weak people into his life. The weak man stays accessible. He keeps the door open, just in case she wants to come back. He entertains her messages, hoping for closure. He stalks her social media, waiting for a sign that she still cares. But the strong man, he erases her completely, not out of hatred, not out of bitterness, but because she no longer deserves a place in his life. She made her choice. She walked away, and now she must live with the consequences. When a man becomes unreachable, everything changes. His energy shifts, his mindset sharpens, his confidence skyrockets. He no longer wastes time on meaningless conversations, pointless distractions, or temporary relationships. He becomes selective with who he allows into his life because his time is his greatest asset. He stops seeking approval, stops explaining himself, stops worrying about what others think. He operates on his own terms. He invests in his future. He protects his peace. He only allows people into his life who bring value. And what happens when she realizes she can no longer reach him? She panics. She suddenly remembers everything he did for her. She starts seeing his worth. She starts comparing every man she meets to him. But by then, he is gone. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. She no longer exists in his world. And this is when she truly feels the loss. Not when he was angry, not when he was hurt, but when he became a man she could never touch again. A loyal man does not stay the same after betrayal. He is not the man she once knew. He is not the man who begged for her love. He is not the man who tolerated disrespect, who ignored red flags, who settled for less than he deserved. That man is gone. His pain didn't break him, it built him. His loss wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And now, he is something else entirely. Unshakable, unreachable, untouchable. He no longer gives his loyalty freely. He no longer trusts words. He trusts actions. He no longer seeks love. He demands respect. But the most powerful transformation, he is no longer afraid. He no longer fears loss, rejection, betrayal, because he knows that everything that leaves his life only makes room for something greater. He no longer clings to the past, no longer dwells on what was, no longer hopes for what could have been. He moves forward with purpose, with power, with an unstoppable force that nothing and no one can shake. He has learned the most valuable lesson life has to offer. Pain is not his enemy. Pain is his greatest weapon. The moment a man realizes that everything is a test, that every betrayal, every setback, every loss is shaping him into the man he was meant to become, he becomes free. Free from emotional weakness, free from needing external validation, free from the cycle of chasing, proving, begging, free from the version of himself that once allowed himself to be disrespected. And that is when he finally becomes a man, not a boy who reacts, not a fool who hopes, a man who builds, a man who leads, a man who dominates his reality. And the most powerful part, he does not do this for revenge. He does not do this to prove anything to her. He does it for himself, because a man who chooses himself over everything is a man who can never be broken again. And that is the final lesson. The world does not owe you love. The world does not care about your pain. The world respects only one thing: strength. And if you are not strong, If you do not control your emotions, your energy, your future, someone else will. So choose. Choose to rise, or choose to stay broken. Choose to learn, or choose to stay blind. Choose to evolve, or choose to repeat the same mistakes. Because no one is coming to save you. No one is going to fix you. No one is going to do the work for you. It is on you. It has always been on you. And the sooner you realize this, the sooner you will stop waiting for life to change and start becoming the man you were born to be. If this message hit you in the heart, you have two choices. Let it inspire you or ignore it and stay the same. But know this, every second you waste is a second you will never get back. Every excuse you make is keeping you trapped in a life you do not want. Every distraction, every emotional reaction, every moment spent chasing validation is stealing from your future. And if you do nothing, you will wake up one day and realize that you wasted your entire life waiting instead of building. Enough. It's time to move. It's time to build. It's time to take control. No more complaining. No more crying over the past. No more wasting energy on people who do not deserve it. Focus, discipline, execution. These are the things that will change your life. Not hope, not love, action. And if you are ready to level up, if you are done being weak, if you are done letting your emotions control you, support this channel. Because by supporting this message, you are not just helping yourself. You are helping every man who needs to hear this. You are making sure that more men wake up, that more men evolve, that more men stop being weak and start being warriors. Like this video, subscribe, share this message, and comment "I choose power" below if you are ready to rise.